guys, welcome and congratulations for the screenings and brilliant films. And actually, Kallol was very nervous कि मैं शुरुआत ही उनसे कर रहा हूँ, तो मैं उनसे शुरुआत नहीं करूँगा अब. So let me just start with Poorva. I have known Poorva since 2023 now. We met at Geo Mami, and now it's really good to see her and the film that she has made. So your film approaches the topic of good touch and bad touch with an intimacy that feels very brave and deeply personal, because you have chosen to shot this with your own children. So what made you decide to have this conversation with your own kids rather than having some child actors, and you could have worked with them? And how did you as a mother prepare yourself emotionally for that level of vulnerability?
I don't know about other filmmakers, but I just winged it. So there was zero prep that went behind it. But just to give some context, I was working on another film on child sexual abuse, and I was researching, and the film was in development since 2020. It has been. I'm still making it. And the children were sort of growing up listening to a lot of conversations at work, which I wasn't sure how are they absorbing these conversations. So to me, it was really, it went without saying that I need to talk to my children. And touch is like the foundation to that conversation, safe and unsafe touch. So I said, okay, let me start with that. And of course, I mean, I've had conversations with them even before we shot this, without the camera. This time around, I just decided to have the camera, and I think the presence of the camera made everything different. I was more nervous. I didn't know what to say, what not to say. When you don't have anybody watching you, you can really say what you want to, because it's just between you and the other people. So the whole experience was very interesting, and I actually shot this for another film, for the feature that was which I was developing. And we did this camping trip. I came back home and I was like, whoa, what was that? Like, what was that? Because it not just, I mean, it wasn't just a difficult conversation, but it was also, I could see that the kids were struggling with that. And I thought that film had to be, that piece had to be a film by itself, which is why I sort of parked my feature film aside and I said, okay, I need to do something with this because it's precious. And I don't think I can put this in a feature-length film which had to do with other people and not my children. That's how it came about.
Now, Kallol, I have to come to him now.
Sure.
So, now your documentary, Mic Drop, it raises the stakes right away. When it confronts the cold rejection that Bada faces when he's denied payment after a performance. So, आपने as a filmmaker and as a human, इस systemic exploitation को portrayal करने के लिए या उसकी creative aspirations की personal story के साथ उसको कैसे merge किया या balance कैसे किया?
I mean, the idea behind this film was to, observe him while he's trying to make a music video. So I was just shooting his day-to-day life, and everything which was happening in his life was captured by the camera. So I was like, when you are saying that I have captured the systemic breakdown, I was not sure that this is a breakdown which is going to happen, right? So I knew that the programmer, the arranger, he's not a well-mannered person, but I was hoping that he gets the money, but he did not get the money for the concert he performed. So I don't know. I mean, I did not capture anything. I was just observing. I was just an observer and tried to portray the story as it is, as it was unfolding in front of me. So I was not, I was not thinking what am I doing right that time. It all, when I sat on the edit, I decided to, put that scene and eliminate some other scenes. So it was not like I was doing certain things. Yeah.
So now, Divya, your film, P for Paparazzi, I think it stuck with me because I have been an entertainment journalist for like 11 years now. So I've seen that, paparazzi wala stuff, कि किस तरीके से Bhat ने photo के लिए. So, and, infamously, they are also known as predators because they are running for that one photo. So did you want to flip the lens and show that they are also prey because hunted by the same life or death problems that they help us escape with their photos?
Yeah, so that was my main aim also, one of the major, and my interest point into it, sorry, I don't know how many of you all have seen the film, but it's screened today in the morning. So yeah, it's based in the life of Indian paparazzis, and there's one paparazzi whom I have followed, and it's about that, so I'll be talking about him. So majorly I was interested in the factor that what happens into the lives of people who peek into the lives of other people, and what happens when I peek into his or her life. So that was my main interest point, and at the same time, this factor that seeing them as human beings came after when I started the process of shooting it and then figuring out what his life is actually, because it was a lot of it was on the go. I did not know that his life is like this. That's it.
So Shubhdeep, now your documentary Close to Home touched my heart because of the kind of conversation you were having with your father, and the decision to capture that deeply personal conversation in that one continuous unedited take was actually a very powerful statement for me. So apart from facing those technical challenges to shoot that one unedited take, what kind of relationship you bonded or you had with your father before and after the movie that came out?
Thanks for the question. And before I say anything, I just also want to say it's very special for me to be here. So I want to also say thanks to Aditi and to everybody behind me and DocFest, because I grew up in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and we also see that, we talk about that in the film. And to have this film screened here in India where I have my roots is just extra special for me. So I just want to start off with saying that. And in terms of your question, then in terms of our relation before and after the film, maybe I also want to just put some comments about the process of the film, because many ask, okay, how do you do this with the one take, and there's a plan and X, Y, Z. So the process with the film is like, I've been visiting my dad who lives in Punjab every October since 22. There was 4 years where I couldn't visit him because of Corona. But the process for me was to do kind of a healing in the bond and the relation between me and my dad. So in 22, 23, 24, I have a lot of different material, different footage. But this last scene that you've seen is shot the last day I was visiting last year. And a little bit like you said, Poorva, that there was something in the scene after this hiking trip with your kids, right? I also came back to Copenhagen and I was like, maybe I don't have to try to do a lot with all these different material I have. This is something that is speaking something from itself. So I have to trust that. And I also think the way me and my dad could have this conversation was also because of all the other footage. There was like a healing that had been done, and we had come to a point where I was able, as a son, to just sit kind of on my hands and not interrupt so much, trying to not give the space to my dad, even though there might be things where I disagree or agree, but this was not what I wanted to do in this specific shot, right? But we came to a point where the intimacy, the trust had been built, and he also felt he could say what he wanted. So also a very special feeling for me after I stopped this recording was I had this feeling that, okay, next year when I come, maybe I don't have to have a camera in between me and my dad. Maybe I can just relax, maybe I can just chill. So that has been like the inner process for myself, and then there's the process of what it says about a society as Denmark or India for the audience.
Great. Now, talking about, the society, your film, Abhay, Noises from the Basement, it powerfully suggests that secrets and, hidden traumas, and there are a lot of systemic issues buried beneath a surface of normalcy, and we see it everywhere. So, as a filmmaker, what house are you forcing the audience to enter, and वो कौन सी specific noises हैं you want the audience to hear ताकि उनको पता लगे कि yes, this is happening?
I think somewhere which kind of gave the film a form was this term which I, while researching for it, called the invisible city makers. So somewhere I think it started from there. I started to visualize how to visualize this term, like while being in search of, while reading about what is happening. So each city, I think at this point you see it's all growing without a stop. It's like rapid growth is happening. Somewhere I was also being in a, like while after moving to Ahmedabad, you see a different form of a city, like each city has a different form. So somewhere while being there, this topic was somewhere running in my head throughout. So when I had to make, so this was also made as a part of a college project only. So when I had to make a documentary, so somewhere this was there in my head, maybe to talk about something, talk about this in a certain way. So maybe that is after a point, then sleep in the city was something which I started the topic with, how to portray sleep, what is sleep, what it means to me, what it means to the city in itself. And slowly reached the point of who builds the city where we sleep. So somewhere it started, it took a shape from there. And then maybe how in the film also you just hear them, you just hear what is being said. And the same, I wanted to show what the film is trying to say through the form of the film as well. So you don't really see who is talking, you see what they have built. So that's why in a way you don't see the people, they are in the basement in a way, in the city, in the structure of the system. So they are left as just noise at this point. Also it's a question in a way, what are you hearing? Is it a noise that you're hearing? And you don't really see them, they are still in the basement for the system, in the hierarchy of the system or the structure in a way. And I wanted to juxtapose their voice with what they have built in a way. So to give it that meaning for people to see. So that is the correlation I wanted people to also make while you hear them speak. What are you looking at when you hear these voices? So in a way, it was an exercise as well to show. Yeah.
Yeah, Shadab, your film Only If the Baby Cries, your film captures the lives of the villagers with very great respect, avoiding that stereotypes of disability. So what kind of specific ethical guidelines you and your crew followed to कि ताकि कम्युनिटी को ये ना लगे या लोगों को ये ना लगे कि आप जो है उनका शोषण भी कर रहे हैं, एक्सप्लॉइट भी कर रहे हैं, लेकिन आप उनकी स्टोरी दिखा रहे हैं बट एक्सप्लॉइटेशन के तरीके से दिखा रहे हैं. तो क्या कोई ऐसी स्पेसिफिक गाइडलाइंस थी जो आपने खुद फॉलो करी?
शुक्रिया, थैंक यू फॉर द क्वेश्चन. यस, डेफिनेटली. जब हम स्टार्ट में ही रिसर्च कर रहे थे, when we were starting, like we started our research, we got to know that media people from the media, they come, they ask the villagers to perform in their sign language so that they can take photograph and videographs. And ऐसा बहुत पहले से हो रहा है, पिछले कई सालों से. और अब विलेजर्स जो हैं वो थक गए हैं. और नॉट जस्ट दिस, साइंटिस्ट ऑल्सो दे कम, दे टेक देयर ब्लड सैंपल्स रिसर्च वगैरह के लिए, और कुछ हल नहीं निकल कर आता है. तो हम जब गए, और मेन मोटो वाज टू स्टे इन आवर बाउंड्रीज, टू लुक एट द विलेज फ्रॉम द फार. इसी वजह से आप फिल्म में भी देखोगे तो बहुत दूर दूर से आपको दिखेगा कि हम एक बहुत दूर से शॉट ले रहे हैं, लॉन्ग शॉट्स हैं, ठीक है. और कहीं क्लोज़अप नहीं है, बहुत कम क्लोज़अप्स हैं. तो उसका मकसद यही था कि हम जो बाउंड्री ऑलरेडी बन चुकी है, जो कि हम तोड़ सकते थे, क्योंकि वेलकमिंग बहुत थे विलेजर्स, तो हम चाहते थे वो तोड़ सकते थे, बट हमने कोशिश की कि हम उस बाउंड्री के पार ना जाएं, और जितना दूर से हो सके उतना दूर से वी कैप्चर देम. And that's the reason this form was developed. So suppose अगर हम interviews ले रहे होते तो I don't think ऐसा form रहता फिल्म का. So maybe एक वो एथिकल चीज़ करके एक अपनी हद में रहकर हमने जो चीज़ की उसकी वजह से मे बी दिस इज़ हाउ वी गॉट दिस फॉर्म. सो या.
So Poorva, one of the I think strongest aspects of your film is the setting, because it feels symbolic. A confined yet natural environment where you are shooting, and the intimacy and reflection coexist in that environment. So was this choice purely practical, or did you see the outdoors as a metaphor for openness and vulnerability?
Until then, I had never actually shot outdoors. So a lot of even for my other projects, I have shot a lot indoors, and I think as a filmmaker, I was just tired. And so to me, it was very clear that I wanted to take a chance. I wanted to go outdoors, and I think by then I had my sensibilities as a filmmaker had also evolved, and I thought I was ready to sort of take the risk. And in a way, just sort of submit yourself to the outside world and nature, because then things aren't really in your control. What you see, how situation is, and I think things tend to be far more controlled when it's indoors. You are more in control as a filmmaker. But I was very clear that I wanted to just let go and see what happens. So that's where the decision came from.
Now, Shadab, you were talking about that, the exploitation, not exploiting them. I think the hearing test scene, that was very hard hitting and very impactful, and is actually the narrative heart of the entire film that you have made. So can you discuss your editing choices in that constructing that sequence, and I mean, how did you navigate and balance all this overwhelming hope and this technical nature of the test with that palpable kind of hopefulness? So किस तरीके से वो किया, and families का क्या reaction था when if they saw the film, what was their reaction?
पहले तो भी बताता हूँ families का क्या reaction था. So the film is for like 15 minutes, right? So the villagers, the families, they said that it's a nice video. It's, for them it's not a film, it's a nice video. But उनको अच्छी लगी, उन सबको बहुत अच्छी लगी फिल्म. जिस सीन की आप बात कर रहे हो, so basically उसका एडिटिंग चॉइस वही था कि we have to keep the things linear. पहले से ही फिल्म we basically we thought that we'll follow 3 act structure. पहले एक्ट में हम विलेज दिखाते हैं, then we move to people, then we move to the tradition, and एडिटिंग का चॉइस यही था कि that we have to keep the film linear, बिल्कुल एक नॉर्मल सा एक 1 page film and nothing else. And but yes, जो utensils, for example, they play utensils, they whistle, the crowd gather around. तो वो थोड़ा बहुत मुश्किल था एक तरीके से लेना, because but it was because वो भी चीज़ हम पहली बार देख रहे थे, and but we managed, I guess we managed, and it was also because of the villagers. They were like उन्होंने बहुत साथ दिया, बहुत साथ रहे, और I guess it's through them that we were able to navigate all of this. Otherwise we wouldn't have been able to navigate all of it. I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. Now, Shubhdeep, having grown up as the son of an immigrant in Copenhagen, in Denmark, how has your father's decision to move back to Punjab influenced your own sense of identity and belonging? Now, do you feel more connected to your roots, or do you feel like caught between these two worlds now?
I think I've been very lucky. My mom is also sitting here today. That yes, that first time I was in India, I was only 3 months old, and in my childhood, I was so lucky. I also came in the second year, so I've always had like a very strong connection to being here. Of course, when I was a teenager, there would be this question about like what is what. But I think very quickly I also found out in my late teen or maybe in my early 20s that like, okay, I'm just lucky. I have more identities, more homes. But what I can see with my dad moving back to India back in 2013 is that I have a reason to come here much more. Because the thing is like, for those of us who are born in a different country, most of the connection we have is through our parents' parents, our grandparents, right? And when my mom's mom, my naniji passed away, then who will we come and visit? Why will we still come and be here? But because my dad, he moved back, then I will come and visit him every year or every second year. So sometimes I describe it like this for my friends in Denmark, where it's very normal that you have a house you can go to in the summer. Then I say I have like a summer house in North India and Punjab, I can come in October, November. So the connection to India has been even stronger afterwards because there's been a main reason to come. And then also to travel around, but that has been even stronger because he's here. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and not the real elephant, but the one thing that we should be talking about is like, the kind of censorship and, films that are getting banned or in trouble for showing what the establishment doesn't like. And unfortunately, this fest also saw that when, two of the films didn't get the permission to for the screening. So as filmmakers, as documentary filmmakers, when you know that you're about to tell a story that might not sit well with the government or the that bureaucracy or thing, do you anticipate that kind of outcome? And when that happens, what can a filmmaker do? Anyone, if like to answer. सब बचना चाह रहे हैं, I know.
And also the last question, because.
Well, I mean, documentary filmmakers or filmmakers per se, they should make films. कुछ भी हो रहा है, कुछ भी, it's getting banned. People have to find a way to get it screened. I remember BBC का एक documentary इंडिया में बैन हुआ था. So I also, we were like a group of 4 friends and we tried to like smuggle the film जहाँ तक चेक कर सकते हैं वहाँ तक, everywhere. लोगों को बिठा कर दिखा रहे हैं वो film. So I think and it is very necessary, very necessary, because आगे भी फिल्म बैन होंगी, आगे भी फिल्मों पे restrictions लगेंगे, क्योंकि जिस तरीके की सरकार है, ऐसा ही चलता रहेगा, ठीक है. एंड पीपल वोंट स्टॉप, फिल्म मेकर्स वोंट स्टॉप, क्योंकि हमारा काम ही है मतलब चीज़ों को दिखाना. तो अगर हम वही रोक दें तो देन देयर इज नो पॉइंट जो भी हम कर रहे हैं. सो आई थिंक वी शुड मेक फिल्म्स एंड वी शुड फाइंड अ वे टू स्क्रीन दोज फिल्म्स. लोगों तक पहुंचाना इज द मेन मकसद. एंड कम्युनिटी स्क्रीनिंग्स, ऐसे टेलीग्राम पे कितना फिल्म चले जाता है. सो द पॉइंट इज कि लोगों को दिखाओ, जिस चीज़ को मना कर रहे हैं लोगों को दिखाने से, वो लोगों को दिखाओ. दैट शुड बी द मोटो.
If anyone else wants to.
Maybe just to add 2 things to it is also like, as you said, that as documentarists, we don't really have this thought to start with, okay, why are we doing this to a certain audience? Then we will not choose to do documentaries, right? And we do it because there's something that touches us, or there's something that we want to tell. But I think as well, it is a major problem, but it's also a reminder of how important it can be to do things. Because sometimes it can be like, okay, what does it matter? What does it do? But if the government can put like a strict restriction on it, then it matters somehow, right? But I think, as you also said, if there's a ban, then it will go underneath. And also people want it even more to be seen or in this way. But also the second thing, just from an artistic kind of statement or like a documentarist as well, sometimes also the limitations also make people to be more creative. How can you then create a story? How can you then do the documentary? And I think that's also an irritating limitation, but it's also open up for the creativity of how can you do things. For example, just to say with the film with my dad, it's nothing in sense of the ban, but my idea was to do this film with my dad on the roof on his house. but that would be totally awkward. You can see how silent we are all the time. So I had to find a natural place for him to talk about things, right? So you have to also find the creativity to then say, how can you still tell the important stories?
Like, Divya, would you like to add something?
I'll just be happy if my film gets into a controversy. Because then that will lead to a lot more people watching the film. That's what. And I'll keep making things and I hope like every one of us does. Because we shouldn't like consider those things in mind. अगर controversy होती है तो अच्छा है. वैसे भी ये picture देखने नहीं आ रहे लोग. Controversy से अगर आ गए तो well and good.
Great. Kallol, you want to add something?
I mean, we should not make films because there is a censor board there. If you consider this festival, then also like Nishtha's film, the world has watched her film. So if the government, if we are not getting the film, the permission to screen the film here, doesn't mean that the film won't be seen by people here or anywhere else. So the film will propagate, even if, I mean, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा लास्ट में यूट्यूब पे डल जाएगी तो पीपल विल इवेंचुअली वॉच द वर्ल्ड विल वॉच यू कांट लाइक सेंसर यूट्यूब आई मीन you can, but yeah, that is something. Yeah. I mean, my thing is that if Iranian filmmakers are able to make their films and send it to their different parts of the country, then we can also. उससे तो कम ही censorship है. केक से भेज देंगे या पेन ड्राइव डाल के कहीं से.
Poorva, anything?
Well, I've been taking lots of film about schools, and interestingly, I have seen pushback from a few schools. I can only say that whenever there's a system, people don't want to have conversations because those conversations make people uncomfortable. You need to sort of then address the elephant in the room. And nobody wants to do that because it's just too much work. So it's just easier to say, hey, no, we don't want this, rather than really have those conversations. And I think it's the same everywhere. It's the same with schools, with governments. When there is a conversation, people just don't want to have it.
Also, I think just to add to that question for the last bit, I think not just in terms of the government, but I saw that when we actually published your post, I think the most amount of backlash that we saw was on your film. Because it just seemed like people were not prepared at all to have that conversation. Yeah. And it offended them no end. I think Nishtha offended the Indian government less than how much you offended, the Indian middle class. So how are you navigating that? Because that must be very difficult, it exactly comes against what you're trying to do.
So I'll just give a context to what Aditi is saying. So they published the trailer of the film, which actually went viral. Nothing about the film has ever gone so viral. And I think I would just add to what Divya says, controversy is always good. So while there were a lot of people who reshared it, sent it, and last I checked it had about 500,000 views. But there were also a lot of comments saying this culture shouldn't come to India, whatever. I honestly, I had no thoughts, and I don't know whether that's a sad thing to say as a filmmaker, because I have been doing this for some time, so I think I'm used to people reacting in a lot of ways. I just smiled because that's the first step towards having a conversation. And I didn't really have to do anything. I didn't comment. But every time there was a negative feedback or a comment, there were 3-4 people jumping on that comment and telling the person to yeah, so I really didn't have to do anything. I just had to sit back and watch the fun, and it felt nice because I don't have to do the talking anymore. The film does it for itself, So yeah, that's that. Yeah.
Great. So now with that, we conclude this Q&A session. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us here, and brilliant films, and keep making them here. हमको भी अच्छी movies देखने को मिल जाती हैं इसी बहाने.